Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Sunday morning, March 10th. Got a nice 6-game slate. Kicks off at 6 o'clock tonight. A 2-gamer at 3:30. The solo Pistons Bulls game at noon. We can probably do without. But hope everybody's having a good weekend. I'm closing out Sunday today. Going to take a look at every game. I'm not going to spend too much time on Pistons Bulls or the 2-gamer at 3:30, but I will focus a lot on the full main slate. For those of you that were curious as to what happened Friday in the head-to-head between myself and Adam, why are you curious? You should know what happened. This guy takes down night one. Mostly came down to James Harden, actually. We only had 4 of the same props, 3 of which we had 4 of the same players, 3 of which were exactly the same. So we had 7 unique props. The only one that we both had that went different directions ultimately won it for me. James Harden under points was like 37.5. Adam took the over, I took the under, and 1-0. Good guys. So sometime next week we'll do game 2. But as of right now, I'm the king of Thrive, so it's really all that matters. NBA Strategy is the promo code. 50% off your first month with us if you use that code. One big word. You enter it while signing up. If you have an issue and think, I can't figure out a place to sign it up, don't keep going. Try to figure that out. It's there, I promise. It's easier for you to email us and say, where do I enter this code, than, hey, I know that there's a code, but I didn't enter it and I kept going anyway. We're just going to refund the money and you're going to have to do it again. So there's that. So shout out to Thrive for allowing me to be up 1-0. Let's take a look at this slate, I guess. Pistons Bulls is essentially just showdown slates, or if you're some sort of savage that plays all day slates, get in there. On FanDuel, the prices that are listed are a part of the all day slate. On DraftKings, the prices that are listed are the utility showdown slate prices, but we know what we're doing here. I mean, Reggie Jackson's questionable, so if you are interested in playing anything with this game, keep an eye on that. Ish Smith could become very, very important. But we all know the drill here. Drummond and Blake. I don't need much else. On the Chicago side, it does make me a little happy that this game is not a part of the main slate, so that I don't have to have an incredible amount of Markkanen, Levine, and to a lesser extent Porter. Really, I shouldn't even include these games. In the future, I should probably just remove them, but got to get the projections and the points and stuff up on the website somehow. So if you're looking at Pistons Bulls, the focus should be on Drummond and Blake, obviously. Ish Smith could potentially see some additional minutes if Reggie Jackson is out. On the Bulls side, at least on FanDuel, you can go with any one of the top 5: Markkanen, Levine, Porter, Dunn, Lopez. If you need to full punt with Archie, go ahead. Not exactly a big fan of it. There's not really that much to say. If you're playing Showdown on DK, I greatly prefer Andre Drummond to Blake Griffin. I just don't have their projections as particularly close, separated by more than 0.2 fantasy points per minute. So my focus on DK would be to Drummond. Again, trying to get Ish if Reggie Jackson is out, I think is a good idea. Ish, even in general, is probably a better play than Reggie Jackson, at least in a showdown slate. Jackson probably a little overpriced. On the Bulls side, I prefer Blake to Levine and Porter, but I would rather have Markkanen than Blake. And if we're working our way through this any further, again, Arcidiacono is probably the guy that I would look at from the Bulls side if you need to be cheaper. And if we're looking at Dunn and Lopez, I would prefer Dunn to Robin Lopez. All right, let's get to a real game now. 2-game slate. 3:30 p.m. start. By the way, it really does feel like it's 9:16 a.m. I was up watching the UFC last night and fell asleep somewhere in the middle of the main card. Woke up and it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock. I was on the couch. I was just like, you know what? I don't really feel like getting up and dealing with this. So I continued to sleep on the couch. It got to like 6:30 in the morning. My alarm went off, and I was like, it is really dark out. Like, what time is sunrise? Couldn't figure it out. Couldn't figure out what was going on. The TV had the screensaver on it from the Roku, and it had the time. So I was like, oh, the time is right. And I turned around and looked at one of like the battery-operated clocks on the wall. And that's when I realized that it was daylight savings, and I had no idea. So I was my body felt that extra hour, that's for sure. Wilder B, I'm glad on the late Osimo show I was told Collins wasn't that great of a play. Thanks, Osimo. Yeah, I'm glad that you had no problem showing up for a Sunday morning show just to say that in chat. Happy to have you. Look, he had a 30-minute cap. That is super relevant. Because he played well doesn't change anything. But thanks for showing up just to let everybody know that. It's helpful. Miami Heat hosting the Toronto Raptors. You can't come at me on a Sunday morning. I feel good. There's nothing to respond to, man. We predict performances every single day. If you think that it's right all the time, we would all shut up and be getting Blumpkins on crappers made out of solid gold. But it's not how this works, man. It's probability. Sometimes it's going to go poorly. If you didn't like the advice last night, don't do it. No one to blame but yourself. We don't enter those lineups for you. Anyway. Let's move on. Adam would own Cisco if they're perfect. For real. Wilder B, let me know if the rest of the chat thinks I'm right or wrong on this one. Oh, it's not. I'm not worried about the hate, but like, there are going to be plays on Live Before Lock every single night, whether it's me on, Chris on, Eddie on, where we say something and it ends up being flat wrong. It's going to happen constantly. If you're not able to deal with that, you shouldn't be watching. That's just what happens. In a perfect world, if we got it on the screen right now. In a perfect world, let's say I've got Josh Richardson projected for 30 fantasy points. Realistically, he's going to end up between 10 and 50. And I know that people don't like that ambiguity, but that's the truth. So, X-Cossack, I don't totally agree there. I don't think that it's a terrible call. Did it end up wrong? Yes. But if you have someone projected for 34 minutes in a game, and then you pull 4 minutes and like 6+ fantasy points from that, or let's say 6 from that projection, it's going to have a huge negative impact. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone is just like fully off the board, but I mean, that's the path that those thoughts take. Yeah, but he doesn't average 50 points against them in 31 minutes. He may have averaged past tense, but he doesn't average future tense. Sure, again, average future or whatever. You guys know what I mean. Yeah, look. Look, we all know how John Collins plays on a per minute basis. It's just it happens. Basically it. Anyway, I love you guys. I don't want to be salty right now. Let's have a good show. Let's plow through this. I don't agree that it was a bad call. But let's go. Miami Heat hosting the Toronto Raptors. I believe everybody is healthy for Miami. So 10 guys. Best of luck figuring out specifically who's going to get this stuff. Raptors side, no Kawhi. No Kawhi. So we have that. Let's take a look at Miami to start. A little bit of a pace-up spot. 108.5 implied total for the Heat. 110 for the Raptors. So Raptors still slight favorites in Miami, even without Kawhi. And then we got to deal with this stupid Heat team. I've got Dragic in for 20 minutes right now. I'm not super comfortable with that. He could play 16. He could play 24. But there you go, Jay. There's the answer for you. Probably just finished typing it out as soon as you heard me say it. He's not someone I'm looking at whatsoever. As per usual, I think Josh Richardson is in play. 6,600 on FanDuel, 6,100 on DK, $24 on Yahoo. Look, his minutes are never in check. He's not great, at least from a fantasy perspective. I really like him as an NBA player. But he's a 0.86 fantasy point per minute guy in my projections. He's been that over the last 30 days. I've got him in for 36 minutes, and he's certainly fine to use. I've got Whiteside and Bam still splitting the center minutes. I went 25-23 on Bam. Pay attention to see if we get news that Whiteside's starting. If he is, I'll flip that to 26-22 Whiteside. But for right now, flyers on Whiteside in the GPP I think are perfectly acceptable on DraftKings. I wouldn't do it on FanDuel. I think Justice Winslow looks pretty good for 6,400 on FanDuel. I think that I probably don't want anybody else from the Heat. If I'm ranking these guys on FanDuel, it would go Richardson, Winslow, Bam, and then Crapshoot. On DK, it would go Richardson, Winslow, Olynyk, Bam, Whiteside, probably. But it's rough, man. It's rough thinking, how can I get some of these Heat guys? Now, the Raptors side is a lot easier. Love Pascal Siakam. 7,600 on FanDuel. 71. Is that news? Nope. 7,600 on FanDuel. 7,100 on DK. I will certainly go there. 8,500 on FanDuel for Lowry. Look, I still like Kyle Lowry with Kawhi out. He's significantly better. We've seen that all year. 8,500 is a fairly reasonable price, though. I don't mind going to it. I like the $7,600 tag on DK a little bit more. I have no problem going to OG Anunoby at 3,100, at least on DraftKings. FanDuel makes for an easy drop. He is not an offensive juggernaut, but for $100 less than the minimum, I expect him to be a solid dude to use on DK as a drop if you're playing that 2-game early slate. After that, you can really fit anybody else in. We still need to figure out who's starting between Gasol and Ibaka. I have it as Gasol today. Gasol getting 28 minutes, Ibaka getting 24, but we just need that information. Otherwise, I'm just guessing. I have no idea. And I don't need anything else from the Heat, or from the Raptors, rather. I'm gonna breeze through these early games, guys, because it's not really all that interesting. And that 3-game or that 2-game 3:30 degenerate slate is It's rough. Sixers, 113.25 implied total. Pacers, 107.75. Sixers are 5.5-point favorites, and we might see that line go up because apparently Joel Embiid will play today. I put him, this is a pace down spot for Philly. Difficult defensive matchup. Actually, I kind of want to leave that up there. So ungroup and then group. There we go. Much better. Difficult defensive matchup, but I gave Embiid 30 minutes. I don't totally expect him to go like the full Magilla here. And if that's the case, I really don't need a ton of Embiid. Just feels a little scary. And then I don't really have a ton of interest in anybody from Philly. JJ Redick, I guess, looks a little bit better. 5,500 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK, but I have a hard time wanting any of these guys if Embiid plays. If Embiid doesn't play, I don't know. Simmons is probably my priority, but it really makes everything worse. So, as of right now, Embiid in makes me not super interested. On the Indiana side, Sabonis also questionable. I have him in right now. If he's in, I think that 5,700 on DraftKings is a very reasonable price tag. I think Bojan at 5,900 on DraftKings is a very, very reasonable price tag. Probably my favorite thing in this entire game. And then Thad Young continues to be a guy that I want to roster. 5,800 on DK, 67 on FanDuel, but that $5,800 price tag is great. He should be pretty popular on a 2-gamer pace up spot. Just give me some Thad here. Philly revenge narrative for Thad Young. But ultimately, like the main slate is good. It's a nice solid 6-gamer, so I do want to focus on that. I didn't run any crunches before I started. I guess I should do that. Although it's going to be crazy, crazy off. We have some ambiguity in the Minnesota stuff. Yeah, I don't... Of all of the stuff on the early slate, the stuff that I like the most is coming from Indiana. Thad Young, Bojan, Sabonis if he plays. Thad just plays so many minutes. 5,800 is a really nice price tag for that. Like, Philly turns the ball over a lot. That's really big for Thad. Over the last 2 months, Philly is 28th in turnover rate. That plays right into Thad Young. So let's talk main slate. That's what we're all here for, right? The Atlanta Hawks hosting the New Orleans Pelicans. 0.00, I guess. 119 implied total for the Hawks. 115.5 for the Pels. So that can't be right. Is that right? Are the Hawks really favored by 3.5? Did I type that incorrectly? Oh, they're favored by 2 now. So I guess I could adjust that mildly. $119.5 to $117.5. I guess that's what happens when Anthony Davis only plays 20 minutes. Drew Holiday is out, and you give a bunch of minutes to Check Diallo and Darius Miller and Ian Clark and Stanley Johnson and Solomon Hill, and then you realize that the Pelicans team really just sucks. So we'll start on Atlanta. Really massive pace up spot. Pelicans defense is terrible. I realize Anthony Davis is questionable. As per usual, I have him in. I know Drew's out. I know Eton Moore's out. I have Okafor in as well. For the Atlanta side, Dwayne Dedmon is questionable, so I have him in. It's something we'll want to pay attention to as the day moves on. Fire up your Alex Lenz on FanDuel, or I don't know, not Tyler Zeller. He's not. There's a lot to like. Why am I getting exposure on here? Do I still have? Yeah, I gotta get that out of there. Delete. And delete. Okay. Yeah, so I have Dedmon in for his normal run, 26 minutes. It takes Len down to 16, and I find these guys not terribly interested in having them. If we get word that Dedmon is out, just treat it like it's been the last couple days. But Trae Young, 8,300 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DK, $36 on Yahoo. I think he looks really nice. I'm going to run the crunches in the background. I think that needs to happen so that I can get my right exposures. All right, one. I could do all this on screen. That's fine. Alrighty, filters are in. Let's grab FanDuel projections. I have to cap Anthony Davis today. Broken Josh Engelman. Did I say something Matt Hardy-ish? I don't even notice. I don't know what I say half the time. Oh, did I say delete a couple times? That makes some sense. All right, let's crunch out some lineups here. Do the same for DK. Be nice to get my actual ownership in there, so let's do that. All right, I need to cap Anthony Davis in some sort of way. Let's just shave his minutes. Make this a little bit more logical. Yeah, why is everybody freak? So I hear what everybody is saying about Cat. That's the big thing. I see people freaking out, and I wanted to talk about it because the word on Cat is not as bad as it seems. I know he's supposed to get testing tonight. We don't have any official word, but I want to make sure I get this right. Presumably, it's going to be an MRI for Cat. The good news is he was walking around after the game, and Coach Saunders said that he has not heard concern of serious injury. So we don't know anything. We have no idea what's going on. I'm not taking him out of my projections until we get word, or at least until we see the injury report come out at 1:30. That's all we can do. That's all we can do right now. Look, by all accounts, Karl Anthony Towns has never missed a basketball game. The only thing that has kept him off the floor in his entire career was a car accident 2 weeks ago or a week ago or whenever that was. So, without question, Karl Anthony Towns stays in until I get told that he shouldn't be. It's just, of all the people in the league, he's the one I trust the most to be on the floor, potentially. I don't know. We'll find out. Not important. We're on the Hawks right now. And I still need to run this stupid DraftKings crunch. Let's get my projections in here. Bum, bum, bum. All right, FanDuel lineups are in. I got way too much Anthony Davis, so we're going to have to crunch that again. Yeah. I mean, if Cat is out, you guys know what the deal is. Just play a lot of them. Or play a lot of the rest of the Wolves, rather. Your Taj Gibsons, your Dario Saric's, your, I don't know, Anthony Tolliver, Gorgeous Dong. All these guys are going to end up soaking up a ton of time. Look, the most important part here is that these games start at 6 o'clock or later, and there's no need to speculate right now. But he's been the most durable player in the league over 4 years, so we'll find out. All right, FanDuel lineups coming in. DraftKings lineups are done. So now we could actually talk about true on exposures. Let's get this stuff in here before we move on. Alrighty. DraftKings is in. If Cat doesn't play, how much should I play Wiggins and Rose? As much as you'd like. Look, you're going to want to play a lot of them, but we have no idea what Rose is going to look like on a back-to-back. We have no idea if Wiggins is in. So we got to get a lot more information on this slate for it to matter. Like there's really, yeah, one, wait till I get to Minnesota, but two, the whole team is in flux today. I don't have a magic ball to look into and understand what's going to happen. I mean, if these guys are out, you're going to want to play everybody from Minnesota. There's going to be an infinite amount of minutes to go around. So, FanDuel crunch. Oop, exported the wrong one. FanDuel crunch. There we go. All right, top 100 lineups are selected. Now we've got exposures. Now let's talk Atlanta. Monster pace up spot. 119.5 implied total is the second highest on the slate behind the Warriors. Pelicans defense is bad. There's a lot to like here for Atlanta. I got 62% Trae Young on that first crunch on FanDuel, 43% on DK. He's projected ownership is in the mid 20s. So I am very, very, very heavy on Trae Young tonight. And I want to be. Mid 30s minutes, 8K price tag. He's been a 1.27 fantasy point per minute guy over the last 30, but with all of the extra possessions in this game and the defensive boost, he grades out better than that. I just want to have a lot of Trae Young, so I think he looks fantastic, but he is not the only piece of Atlanta that I'm looking at. On FanDuel, I got 20% John Collins. Shout out John Collins. Got him in for 30 minutes, everybody. 3-0, just in case anyone wants to know. I think Taurean Prince at 28 minutes at 5K is reasonable on FanDuel on a 6-gamer. I have Dwayne Dedmon in, and I don't have a problem playing him at 5,900 if we know that he is, business as usual. Kevin Herter, 4,100. I've got him in for 28 minutes, which is a little scary, but I think it's reasonable to go to him for 4,100. I like Atlanta a lot. On DraftKings, I don't have much interest in Dedmon at 5,900. The FanDuel price is just much nicer. You can make a case for punting with DeAndre Bembry at 3,600, but I think that there are going to be way better options out there, including half of Minnesota. Otherwise, it's Trae Young is core. He top 5, maybe number 1 on all of these sites. Do I have more Trae Young than everybody else? All right, so Trae Young is second. Trae Young is first on FanDuel. Darius Miller is first in theory, but punt guys don't count. Trae Young is second on DraftKings for me. PJ Tucker at 3,800 coming in a little heavy. And you guys know I end up getting way too much PJ Tucker. So Trae Young is, without question, my number 1 guy. I won't have that much PJ Tucker or anything when all is said and done. Taurean Prince is my number 2. And then John Collins would be 3 for me. That's Atlanta. Can't beat it. Now, Pels side. Like I mentioned, AD questionable. So we have that. Drew Holiday out, Eton Moore out, Jahlil Okafor questionable. This is where we stand right now. Julius Randle, 9,100 on FanDuel, 8,500 on DraftKings. Everything that I said about the Atlanta Hawks matchup is just as true for the Pelicans, if not better. Even more of a pace-up spot. 117.5 implied total is the 4th highest number on the slate. Also, fantastic defensive matchup. All signs pointing in the right direction. If Dwayne Dedmon ends up out, I even like Randle slightly more. But right now I got 30% Randle on FanDuel, 22% on DK. I'm slightly above the field on both guys, and I'm totally cool with it. So, get yourself some Julius Randle. He should smash here. Don't mind the $9,100 price tag. Elfrid Payton, 6,700 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DK, 21 on Yahoo. Pounding Elfrid Payton. Put him in for 32 minutes. Perfect spot. I have him in half of my original FanDuel lineups right now. He's clearly my top option at point guard. Well, second option at point guard behind Trae Young. But he is clearly the top pair. Like, right out of the gate, Hawks Pelicans, first game, 6 o'clock. And the best 2 point guards are in this game against each other. And they don't really take away from each other. So I don't mind playing them both against each other. They're really, really cheap. Neither one of them particularly good on the defensive end. So I want to get some Payton on both sites. One of my top guys. AD I'll largely ignore. Kenrich Williams getting quite a bit of love at 5,200 on FanDuel. I understand it. I'm right there with the field. 4,900 on DraftKings. I'm not getting the same sort of exposure, just 3% in my top lineups. He's not a guy that I love getting to. He's someone that at 5,200 on FanDuel, I would hope that I could pivot off of a bit. I don't like him as much when he's playing at the 3. His rebounding rate takes a major, major hit. So if we take a look at the FanDuel ownership, 5,200. So, you can just as easily pay $200 more to go to Mirotic. Not that it's like a fantastic spot or anything, but just to get off of the chalkiness. You can drop to Mikal Bridges if you're feeling froggy. But following the chalk on Kenrich Williams is a little scary. For the rest of the Pels, don't pay too close of attention to some of the numbers that you see here. Darius Miller at 30. Well, all 3 of these guys. Check Diallo, Darius Miller, Ian Clark. They're getting monster ownership on FanDuel for me because of the ability of using punt plays. They have really high exposures for me. I don't mind getting tons of guys like that. So I like using, because of the amount of possessions in this game, because of the high scoring nature of this game, I'm perfectly fine rotating through some Pels guys as potential punt plays if any one of those guys pop off because of this enhanced offensive matchup. I think this could be the spot. So using guys like Darius Miller if he plays mid-20s minutes, or Check Diallo or Ian Clark if he gets a bunch of minutes again. I think he played 27 in the last game. They're perfectly feasible drop guys. On the DK side, these are not guys that I'm really looking for. Darius Miller has a little bit of shine at 3,400 if you desperately need it. But again, we could find out a lot of value comes out of Minnesota and then Darius Miller just becomes useless. I really just don't like the DK price tags on these guys. Frank Jackson's pretty chalky. 17% on FanDuel, 22% on DraftKings. I'm clearly on this game, but I'm not on Frank Jackson. I got 1% on FanDuel, just 6 on DraftKings. I do only have him in for 28 minutes, though, which feels like a bit of an issue. I may need to bump that up a little bit, and I'll probably get a little bit more, but I won't be with the field or over the field on Frank Jackson, barring some weird news that like somebody else gets ruled out. Alrighty, let's head to Memphis. The Grizzlies hosting the Orlando Magic. 103.25 implied total for the Grizz. 104.25 for the Magic. Really big game for the Magic's playoff hopes here. You don't want to drop games to the Grizzlies. Grizzlies defense is good. Magic defense, fantastic. Really, really, really great defensive team. Steve Clifford, shout out right there. On the Grizzlies side, I believe everybody is healthy that like we think is healthy. Yeah, Avery Bradley probable, CJ Miles probable. Still no Jaren Jackson. And no Kyle Anderson. Yeah, there's only one piece of this game that I have any interest in. And so on FanDuel, Conley is at 12% ownership. Nobody else in the double digits. I don't have anybody more than Noah at 4%. I'm staying away from Memphis completely. On DK, Conley at 7,200 is getting 20% ownership. I don't disagree with it, but I hate this spot. The one guy that I want out of this game, even though he's at 12% ownership on DraftKings right now, $4,600 Avery Bradley. I've got him in for 34 minutes. He grades out as a fantastic play. I have close to double the field on him right now. But the main thing I want to point out, he's been at 0.88 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. That's essentially the entire time that he has been with Memphis. I only have him at 0.7 in this game. Pace down, tough matchup, very big defensive adjustment. And the fact that, I think that I probably need to regress him a little bit more to his norms. Even with all of that said, I still think Avery Bradley is a fantastic play. If I had him at 0.88, which is where he has been, I would get an infinite amount of him. So I desperately want to play some Avery Bradley on DK. Otherwise, I will ignore all of Memphis. Similarly on Orlando, I don't really want to get a lot here. Memphis's defense is solid. They have an infinite amount of defensive big men. Well, maybe not defensive big men. They have an infinite amount of big men, I guess. But not enough points. Big time pace down spot. 10-1 on FanDuel for Vooch, 9,300 on DK. I don't have much interest there. You can get to Aaron Gordon. Not super interested. Evan Fournier is fine. These guys are all okay at like 3 or 4% ownership, but otherwise, no thank you. John Isaac, 21% expected ownership on FanDuel, 5,800. I'll be half of that. The only guy that I care about here, and it's similar to Memphis, one spot only. Terrence Ross. He's 19% expected ownership on FanDuel. I completely agree with it. He's at 17 on DK. I have more than that. If I'm taking anybody from this game across the board, it's Terrence Ross. And really, Ross and Avery Bradley are the only guys that I'm paying attention to. That's all. I love coffee so much. It gets me through everything. Okay. Moving on. The Dallas Mavericks hosting the Houston Rockets. 107.5 implied total for the Mavs, 115.5 for the Rockets. So 8-point favorites in Dallas. Only news to point out for Dallas is that Maxey is questionable. Surprise, surprise, I have him in. It doesn't matter all that much if he gets ruled out. Dallas defense been just super dreadful lately. They have been better at home, but Mavs have not been playing great. We'll start with Adam's boy, Luka. I wish he were my boy too, but whatever. 10K on FanDuel, 8,800 on DK, 43 on Yahoo. So 10K on Yahoo, or 10K on FanDuel is a pretty tough sell. I don't mind him. I got 5%. He's at 13. It's just really not a spot that I love. 8,800 on DraftKings, though? Ooh, boy. He's at 23% expected ownership right now. I got to 30. I love Luka on DraftKings. 8,800 is simply too cheap. If we take a look at some of the guys around him at that price tag, let me just collapse that. So we've got Steph at 9,100. I'd rather have Luka. Devin Booker at 8,300. I'd much rather have Luka. So would the ownership. I'd rather have. Man, Luka and Trae Young is super close. I'd probably rather have Trae Young given the ownership, but I like both of those guys a lot. Luka is just an absolutely fantastic play on DK. He has the 6th highest exposure for me right now. One of those guys is Karl Towns. One of those guys is Josh Jackson, which is certainly not going to hold. PJ Tucker won't have 50. So I'd say Luka's probably my second favorite play of the day. Maybe third behind Trae Young and Elfrid Payton. Get yourself some Luka Doncic, people. At least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, do what you need to do. For the rest of the Mavs, not a ton of interest on the FanDuel side outside of Dorian Finney-Smith. He's 3,900, so feel free to work him in as a drop guy. And if Maxey is out, then you can absolutely take a closer look at DFS. On the DK side, Tim Hardaway looks okay at 4,800. I've got him in for 38 minutes. He's got 12% ownership. I'm a little higher than that. Like I said, it's not the most advantageous spot in the world. Houston defense been really solid over the last 15 games, but I like Hardaway at 4,800. And I like Jalen Brunson at 4,100. I've got him in for 30 minutes. We're projecting 16% ownership, but I think he's just slightly underpriced. I am over the field on Brunson. You can see between Brunson, Trae Young, and Elfrid Payton, getting a lot of exposure to those three guys at the point guard spots. So feel free to grab some Jalen Brunson. But Luka, Hardaway, Brunson, the only three guys I like on DK, and that order is definitely Luka, Brunson, Hardaway. Alrighty, another sip of coffee. Hit that like button while you're here, everybody. I love these Sunday shows. Just shooting the shit. YouTube chat has been off the rails from the jump. Still somehow talking about John Collins. You guys are fantastic. It's really hard not to like Luka at 8,800. I love that dude. All right, let's go to Houston. James Harden, 12-2 on FanDuel, 11-3 on DraftKings, $59 on Yahoo. I don't totally mind the 12-2 price tag on FanDuel. I got to 19% Harden. He grades out really well. He's had a massive usage rate since the All-Star break. Still no Fareed. Harden at 27% on FanDuel. So what else is out there? What leads you to get to 27 at shooting guard? So given the prices and the ownership, I think the spread between Harden and Luka at shooting guard on FanDuel is fine. I don't have much interest in Devin Booker. I understand the exposure to Harden. It's relatively easy to get away from it, but I don't mind using James Harden here, even at 12-2 on FanDuel. Dallas is middle of the pack in free throw rate, so that's not going to impact Harden all that much. I'll use him. Now on DraftKings, James Harden is 11-3. He is at 21% expected ownership, just 2% behind Luka Doncic. I don't see these guys as particularly comparable. I would much, much, much rather have Luka Doncic for, $2,500 less than James Harden. So yeah, play Luka on DK. I'll have a little bit of James Harden because he's James Harden, but I would, as of right now, I'm about half of the field. It's not a spot I'm looking to go for. It's just I don't love those monster price tags on DraftKings. There's usually a bit more value on the slate, and it allows you to get basically like one slightly better guy. Now, if Harden comes out and scores 90, none of it, the point is moot, but I don't like the 21% ownership. Chris Paul at 8,900 on FanDuel is not terribly appealing, but I'll have slightly more than the 6% of the field. 7,400 on DraftKings, however, is pretty damn tasty. He's at 14% ownership. I have 30. I desperately want Chris Paul on DK at 7,400. That's just way too cheap. Way, way, way too cheap. I have the same amount of Chris Paul on DraftKings as I have of Luka. I'm in for that. 1.22 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days for Chris Paul. 34 minutes in this game. Of course I want him at 7,400. No brainer. And that's not all in this game. I don't know what to do with Clint Capella right now. He's 8K on FanDuel, 7K on DraftKings. His normal rates make me want to play him a decent amount here. And I'm right around the field on FanDuel. I'm a little bit under on DK at 7K. I will probably manually adjust him down slightly and not have much Capella. It's a great spot. Like, there's no one on Dallas that can hang with him unless you're a big Solemn Measury fan, which you shouldn't be. But like Dwight Powell can't deal with Capella's size. So it's an interesting battle between a fantastic matchup and a guy that is just pretty clearly not healthy. 0.95 fantasy points per minute over his last 30 days. I mean, what is he traditionally? What do I have him at as a base rate? Where's Houston? So Capella is a 1.18 baseline guy, and he's been playing at 0.95. That is rough. So use your discretion. If you think that Clint Capella can play his normal rates, then I think having him in the 10 to 20% range is perfectly acceptable. If you don't, steer clear because he's getting a lot of love. PJ Tucker, 4,800 on FanDuel, 3,800 on DK. Look, I got 50% PJ Tucker on DraftKings on this first crunch. That's not happening when he's at 9%. I will simply bring him down. He is a guy that gets here mostly on minutes, which is kind of scary. But I like him on a slate that, to me, right now doesn't have value. I am projecting the Minnesota game differently. So on the late slate, or the main slate from 6 o'clock on, I like the idea of using PJ Tucker as a potential, low salary guy. I know I talk about PJ Tucker a lot. I cannot get behind these particular rates as of right now. I will walk that stuff back. I'd probably end up in like the 30% range on Tucker, which is scary. But again, 6-game slate, 36 minutes. I definitely want to have him more than the field. I think that you can make a case for a little bit of Eric Gordon, somewhere in the 10%-ish range. But that's probably it. Main focus coming out of this entire game. Luka Doncic, we'll say on FanDuel. Dorian Finney-Smith, Harden, PJ Tucker. On DK, Chris Paul, Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway, PJ Tucker. There's a lot to like in this particular game on DraftKings. The salary structure looks really nice. Crack that back a little bit. Alrighty. Time to talk Minnesota. Let's try to have a good discussion here, too. Minnesota Timberwolves. 118.5 implied total. New York Knicks 108.5. That is not the total. Total is down to 7.5. Okay, so that opened at 10. It's not 10 any longer. I have a hard time believing that the Timberwolves are 7.5 point favorites if Cat plays. But the line moving down makes me feel like Wiggins doesn't. As of right now, look, Towns got hurt last night. Wiggins is questionable. Derrick Rose is probable. I don't know if this is even updated. Let me take a look. Yeah, Wiggins questionable. Covington out. We don't know what's going on with Towns. Luol Deng is questionable. Derrick Rose is probable. I mean, if Wiggins and Cat are both out, just feel free to play anybody on Minnesota. They need to fill 70 minutes. Basically, everybody's in play. Right now, I have everybody in. If that's the case, I have no issue playing Karl Anthony Towns on either FanDuel or DraftKings. This is a fantastic matchup. I think that you can talk yourself into Derrick Rose at 5K. I think that Andrew Wiggins is in play, 6,700 and 6K. The Knicks are really, really bad, and the Wolves have a 116.5 implied total. So if everybody's in, I still like all of the main guys. But we need to talk about this now as if they're out. 7.5. If they are 7.5 point favorites right now, one of Wiggins and Towns is in for sure. They're just not going to be 7.5 point favorites if both of those guys are out. If Karl Anthony Towns is out, you will want to take a very close look at Dario Saric, Taj Gibson, Anthony Tolliver. I think that you see Gorgeous Dong play 16 minutes in that scenario, probably, and not really be that feasible. Saric is getting a lot of love. 38% expected ownership on FanDuel. 41% on DraftKings. Similarly, Taj, 50 on FanDuel, 54 on DK. Those are going to be the two guys that get the most love if Towns is out. As they should. I'd probably feel more comfortable with Taj than Saric, because I think that Taj then just sort of plays the 5, gets a lot of rebounding opportunities, looks fine. I think Saric can kind of coast unless they run everything through him, but I feel like it'd be more of a Teague and Rose game in that case. If Wiggins is out, keep your eye on Rose. It is a back-to-back, so be cognizant of his minutes. Josh Okogie gets a bump in that spot, and then Keita Bates-Diop would get a very, very big boost. But right now, I mean, I've got Towns for 36 minutes and Wiggins for 36 minutes. We've got 72 minutes in flux. There's nothing I can tell you that is going to be like revolutionary information right now. What I have in my exposures are what happens if both guys play. What we have in our expected ownership is what happens if... That's really weird. Why would Towns be in on DK and out on FanDuel? It's not important. Look, I love Towns if he plays today. That's really it. I don't get the sense that I would want like an overwhelming amount of Dario Saric, but if both guys are out, then if Towns and Wiggins are out, Teague, Rose, Saric, Okogie, Gibson, like there's basically just like no limit to the amount of how much I would want those guys. It's just there's too much opportunity. You got to keep an eye on it, though, guys. I don't have the information. No one does. Making sure we haven't seen anything since we started, which we have not. And who knows? Like, I have no idea what to believe. Not believe. That's not really the right sort of way to say that. But Coach Anders saying that he has not heard concern of a serious injury. That's positive. Let's talk about the Knicks, if we have to. 109 implied total. A little bit of a pace-up spot. And unfortunately, there are things that I like here. Your mileage may vary. Noah Vonleh is questionable. Mario Hezonja is questionable. That really shouldn't matter. If Noah Vonleh plays, 5,200 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings. I'm a fan. I have him in for 26 minutes if he plays. And if he gets that sort of run, I think that he is in a fantastic spot. Similarly, 4,800 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DraftKings. No ownership whatsoever. I like taking a shot at Emmanuel Mudiay as a flyer. And similarly, 4,800 on FanDuel, 4,600 on DraftKings. Very little ownership. I don't mind going to Damian Dotson. Minnesota's defense is bad. They could be in flux with multiple guys out. So this is a spot where I really don't mind grabbing some of these Knicks guys. And I'm going to try to focus on the guys that get the most minutes in general. And when they're healthy, that's probably Vonleh and Dotson. And then Mudiay just feels like a nice flyer. I don't need to go to 24% like I have on DraftKings if he's at 3, but I can go to 15 and get some nice leverage over the field. Granted, he is Emmanuel Mudiay, not a great basketball player, but I'm going to take my chances on some Knicks today. That always goes well. Hit that like button, everybody. And again, NBA Strategy is the promo code. It'll give you 50% off your first month. The San Antonio Spurs hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. 111.75 implied total for the Spurs. 114.75 for the Bucks. So 3-point favorites for Milwaukee. Really nice pace-up spot for San Antonio. Rudy Gay is questionable. Jakob Poeltl is in. For now, I'm treating it like everybody is in. 8,700 on FanDuel, 8,200 on DK, $36 on Yahoo. I'm basically just following the field on DeRozan. Similarly, 8,400 on FanDuel, 8K on DraftKings. I'm basically just following the exposure on Aldridge. Oh, this line is a pick now? Move 3 points. I've got San Antonio minus 1.5. That's interesting. A lot of these lines have moved quite a bit. San Antonio favored now. This line I might as well update them all. There's some big swings since I started. Houston line is 9. Atlanta line is 2. Orlando is +1. Okay, those are all fine. Yeah, so this line is actually 114.25 to 112.75. That makes me think that someone is going to be out for Milwaukee, which is kind of crazy. I find it hard to believe that the Spurs would be favored here. If they are, that says a lot about the East. Anyway, like I said, I'm right with the field on DeRozan and Aldridge. I don't have any real hot takes there. I'm happy to be slightly over the field on Rudy Gay on either site. 6,500 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DK. They both feel perfectly fine. After that, I'll have a little bit of Marco Bellinelli, but I don't like really grabbing a bunch of Spurs guys. It always makes it a little tricky for me. So just stay neutral on DeRozan and Aldridge. They could pop off in this spot. Otherwise, I'm going to focus a little bit more on Milwaukee. In particular, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 12-1 on FanDuel, 11-1 on DraftKings, 54 on Yahoo. I like Giannis quite a bit at 12-1. He's probably my favorite pay-up guy on FanDuel. So I will have quite a bit of Giannis, barring him being on the floor. On DK, again, I'm not going all the way up to that 11-1 price tag. He's at 19% expected ownership. I like coming in around half of that. No real interest in Middleton. No real interest in Bledsoe on FanDuel. But on DK, where he is underpriced at 6,200, he's got 18% ownership. I'm just going to stick with the field there, but I want to have around 20. No real interest in Lopez or Brogdon or Mirotic for me, though. This game is basically just Giannis and Bledsoe on DK, and the Spurs is just DeRozan and Aldridge. I don't want much else here. Final game, the Golden State Warriors hosting the Phoenix Suns. 125.25 implied total for the Warriors, 109.25 for the Suns. Man, if the Warriors don't sit someone here, I don't know what's going on, but they are 16-point favorites here. Whew. I don't even know how to recommend this. But as of right now, on FanDuel, I would go Boogie, then Curry, then Clay, then Draymond, then Durant. On DraftKings, Boogie, Clay, and Draymond all in a similar spot, then Curry, then all the way back down to Durant. Just don't have a ton of interest in Kevin Durant here. I think it's a lot easier to pay up at other guys at small forward. I don't mind using the rest of them for value. Everybody's popular. You kind of just want to cycle through them. You expect at least one or two of these guys to pop off against Phoenix. But, don't overwhelm yourself with a ton of these top 5 guys. But Durant is the guy that I'm going after the least. And they're popular too. I mean, Cousins, Clay, and Draymond all in the mid-20s on DraftKings. Durant, Curry, Cousins, Thompson all in the 20s on FanDuel. Draymond at 17. There's a ton of Warriors exposure here. Getting the Warriors right will be pivotal for you. Absolutely pivotal. On the Phoenix side, a little bit of a pace-up spot, but, really just not an appealing thing for them. Only guy that I kind of like here is Josh Jackson, 4,700 on FanDuel, 4,100 on DK. Got him in for 26 minutes right now. He played 22 in the last game, played 26 in his most recent game. I might be 2 minutes too high, so I'm going to pull them from him. I want to see how that looks if I take them away. We'll give them right to Bender, see if it matters. Alrighty. So if I do that, I still get quite a bit of Josh Jackson, but not nearly as much as the 30% that I'm showing on the screen. So I like him at that price tag. I think that he can pop a number at 47 or 41 in particular on DK. And then DeAndre Ayton for 6,500 on DraftKings feels way too cheap. That's a direction that I would happily go, but he is getting some ownership, so it's a little scary. It's really hard to want to prioritize anything from Phoenix, so I like Josh Jackson in 24 minutes. If you think he gets anything more than that, load him up. Devin Booker is not a guy that I'm going to. Just can't do it. This is a terrifying game, but I would like to have, at least one Warrior in every lineup and maybe 2. That's where we're at right now. So, if I just look at this, Trae Young, Elfrid Payton, Giannis, Julius Randle, Damian Dotson, the top guys that I have on FanDuel. On DK, Tucker, Trae Young, Elfrid Payton, Towns if he plays, Josh Jackson, Luka, Chris Paul. Those are all the guys that I'm quite a bit over the field on right now. But we got a nice little 6-gamer. I will be back tonight at 5, live before lock, myself and Fast Eddie Fear breaking down this 6-gamer for you guys on a Sunday. I don't have much else, though. It was a good morning. Liverpool, pretty monstrous victory. They put a paddling on Burnley, so I'm at least in a good mood in that regard. That's all I've got, everybody. Hour and 6 minutes. You can't beat it. Sometime in this upcoming week, Shit My Money and I will have game 2. Could be Monday, who knows, of game 2 of our contest at Thrive Fantasy. So if you want to check out Thrive, go to bit.ly/Awesemo. Enter the promo code at Thrive. Promo code for Thrive. Awesemo Strat. One big word. AWESEMO STRAT. Awesemo Strat. It will get you $5. You don't even have to deposit. It's just free $5. Free $5. It's as if you walked down the street and found it on the ground. Jeremiah Johnson said you fell asleep. Did I watch the Luis dos Santos fight? I woke up as it ended. And then I just immediately put myself back to sleep because I didn't care. Because I liked Derek Lewis last night, but he looked like garbage, evidently. Yeah, I watched the entire card except for like the fights that matter most. Actually, let me look at it. So, actually, you know what? I saw more than I thought I did. So, I watched all the way. I watched Tim Bosch get his face melted. I watched the Dariush sub. I watched Blagoy Ivanov bust up Ben Rothwell. I hate Ben Rothwell. I watched Tim Means choke away that fight against Nico Price and get slept. The Elijah Zaleski dos Santos Curtis Melender fight. I did not see a single bit of that, including the submission. I fell asleep. And I woke up in the middle of Dos Santos putting it on Derek Lewis. So that's where I was. What's the next card? I saw they just made Anthony Smith Gustafson. That's fun. So we've got, Till Masvidal on Saturday. Yeah, so we will have projections and ownership for the UFC event next Saturday. Early start. It's a UK card, I guess. Or it's a European card. So it starts at 3:00. But we will have we'll have ownership. We'll have regular projections. I will have my cheat sheet out for the event. Go Darren Till, BT Dubs. Although I don't want Darren Till anywhere near a Ben Askren fight. So no, thank you. A fun little card though. Ozdemir Dominic Reyes is a monster fight for Reyes. Hopefully he can finish off Ozdemir and people could stop watching him. Leon Edwards Gunnar Nelson is fun. Big Gunnar Nelson fan, so I'm excited for that UFC card. What's the one after that? Wonder Boy Pettis, and then I don't know. If John Makdessi is third from the top on a show, I probably don't want to watch it all that much. That'll be a fun main event, but again, not another card that I'm super duper interested in. I don't need David Branch in my life much longer. 236, though. That's the money card. Max and Poirier, Gastelum, Adesanya is monstrous. Can't wait. All right, that's it. Enough UFC talk at the end of this NBA show. Like I said, I will be back tonight, 5 p.m. Myself and Fast Eddie Fear taking you all the way up to lock. Best of luck, everybody. We'll talk to you later.